Good afternoon. I'm State Assemblyman Jeffrey Dinowitz. I represent the Northwest Bronx, and I am a graduate of the Bronx High School of Science, and both of my kids made the Bronx High School of Science, and they passed the test not because their father was an elected official and not because they had a rich daddy who went there who could be nice to the school. They passed the tests because they passed the tests, and it was an objective test. And in about 13 years, I'm hoping that my son's two sons will also take the test and pass the test. And hopefully the Bronx High School of Science will be the school that it was when I went there and when my son went there. But let's be clear, there is something wrong when only 13% of the students of New York City's specialized high schools are Latino or African American. However, I do not believe that the problem lies with the specialized high school admissions test, which the 8 specialized high schools, 2 of which are in my district, the Bronx Science and the School of American Studies, those schools use as their only criteria for admission. The underrepresentation of some minority populations in these schools is indicative of a much larger set of challenges facing the city's education system that does not begin in 8th grade, but begins in kindergarten and probably way before kindergarten. Those who advocate for a more complex admission process do a disservice to the students they want to help and to the premise of objectivity upon which these specialized schools were founded. Of the hundreds of schools in New York City and the many, many dozens of high schools, only 8 base their decisions on this particular test. Though no test is perfect, the SHSAT seeks to be entirely objective. It is meant to identify New York City's best and brightest young minds so that they can learn alongside their peers. So political influence, athletic prowess, family legacies, money, none of that plays a role in the admissions exams for those schools. The myth that the specialized high schools exist exclusively for the privileged elite is just that, a myth. According to the Department of Education statistics, over half the students currently enrolled in these 8 schools are eligible for free or reduced lunch. A significant percentage of the school's population are either immigrants or the children of recent immigrants, and less than a quarter of the student body is white. Those advocating for additional criteria to determine admissions want to use standards that are prone to manipulation and subjectivity, such as grades or, if you can believe it, attendance. And as a Bronxite, I can tell you that perhaps attendance in some of our schools may not be as good as in other areas because we have the highest asthma rate of any county in the state. And using attendance as a criteria can, in fact, penalize students in our borough rather than help them. And while a good attendance record should be the goal of every student, because qualified applicants may miss more days than, for whatever reason, that should not be what determines whether they get in. Merely showing up should not be a factor in determining whether a student is qualified to be in a specialized high school. To be sure, there are aspects of this application process that can be improved and that should be improved. One critique of the process, which I think is very reasonable, is that not all students have equal access to prep classes and tutoring for the SHSAT, and this has to be changed. Right now, some kids take the prep classes, some kids don't even know about it. I believe that every student should have free test preparatory classes available to them whenever they want it, for as long as they want it, and that should be available in every single school. But in addition, the SHSAT is an opt-in test, and that means that you have to specifically register to take the test. And what that means is that students across New York City, including many, many in Latino and African American communities, do not take the test or don't even know that the test exists, and many of the people running the schools in those districts don't inform them of that. Instead, I believe that the test should be an opt-out test. Students would be registered unless he or she chooses not to take the test. That way, many, many more people will take the test. It should be incumbent upon the Department of Education to inform every family of the specialized high schools, because I guarantee you, many, many people don't even know they exist. They should be informed of the SHSAT, of the free tutoring opportunities that should be made available to them. You know, the 8 specialized high schools that use this test to determine admission are among the best schools, not only in the state, but they have earned national reputations for excellence. And my own alma mater, Bronx Science, as we know, because we like to say it, because it's true, has 8 Nobel Prize winners amongst their alum. These effective educational institutions should be cherished and protected. Don't get me wrong, the non-representative demographics of these specialized high schools are beyond troubling, but adjusting the application process to include factors beyond the SHSAT would simply introduce bias and subjectivity to an objective and fair process. The free prep classes and opt-out process format would be big steps forward. And there are other things we can do to get more people to take the test and to get more people to be as prepared as possible for the test. But still, we know the reality is that these measures are only part of the solution. Together, we have to work to make sure that our school system as a whole improves, because the truth is we cannot use what I would consider simplistic solutions to a problem, the problem of skewed demographics. The fact is, kids don't just become better students or poor students in 8th grade. This starts in kindergarten or before. Thank goodness Mayor de Blasio's universal pre-K, which the state legislature funded, is now in effect. But the fact is, there are some kids who go into kindergarten knowing how to read, and there are some kids who go into kindergarten with not even knowing their ABCs. And those kids are going to be at a disadvantage for many, many years to come. So if we really want to resolve this problem, we have to start resolving that problem many years before the kids take these tests in 8th grade. And also, as was shown by the recent study by the controller, Scott Stringer, the use of the multiple criteria schools, the strong possibility exists, and I quote, of inappropriate manipulation of student ranking, favoritism, and fraud. There is no guarantee that using multiple criteria will change the results. In fact, the demographics in those schools is wider than they are in the specialized high schools. And they're less Asian American. Those are the demographic statistics that we have. In my borough, there are no gifted and talented classes in most of the school districts. All the school districts in the South Bronx, as far as I know, there are no gifted and talented classes. So there are so many different things that we could do to change things way before 8th grade, way before kids take the test. The fact is that given the overwhelming majority of the kids who are at the 8 specialized high schools are minority, and the majority of them qualify for free lunch, I think we have to really identify what the problem is. And the problem isn't the SHSAT. The problem is that the education system has failed them from day one.